Chad, you all have built a coalition of both LGBT groups as well as business groups. As Bill Clinton would say, if you see a turtle on a fence post, you know it didn't get there by itself. Give us a little bit of the instant history of how you and the business community have interacted to form a coalition, not just in Indiana and Arkansas, but really now a national coalition on these issues.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. Look, the governor hinted at it. He said he had heard directly from his son. But in addition to hearing from his son, Seth, he also heard from tens of thousands of fair-minded Arkansans, Democrat and Republican from all over this state, who, when they heard about this law, they stood up, they spoke out, and the governor today made it very clear that he's listening. But in addition to...
Go ahead.
No, but in addition to all the Arkansans, you also had business leaders stand up. From small businesses in this state to some of the largest companies in this country like Walmart, like Axiom, like Apple Computers, NASCAR.
But Chad, if I could just stop you, I'm not saying it's not organic in any way, and I'm not saying it's not heartfelt, but is your group and groups with which you're in coalition, are you all having direct talks with these businesses about strategy and tactics and timing and things like that?
Absolutely. Many of these are businesses, Mark, that we've been working with a long time on the issue of marriage. We've also been working with them to pass federal protections. But what happened with these laws at the state level, and there are dozens of them, by the way, that attack LGBT folks, they thought they could slide this under the radar where business wouldn't notice, we wouldn't notice, the media wouldn't notice. Well, that didn't happen. And so the grand spotlight has come to them, and all of a sudden they're starting to take pause. So we've been organizing and building these coalitions with allies and with business and with LGBT folks all across this country for a long time. But Governor Pence signing that bill in Indiana, it truly woke up the world. And the world started paying attention to what's been happening in so many states. And you saw what Governor Hutchinson did today. It's a sign of progress. We still have a long ways to go, but our job is to keep that pressure on.
Hey, Chad, you mentioned the spotlight. What type of, will there be a political fallout for lawmakers who do continue to support these bills? And if so, what would it be from your sense of things and when?
Absolutely. I do think what you're seeing on these issues, that as some of these legislators step forward and espouse animus as these bills go forward, they actually, you don't have to wonder what kind of hate is embedded in these laws. Some of these legislators are standing up and just outright saying it. And what you're starting to see happening, that kind of hateful rhetoric no longer works in politics. It doesn't even work in many conservative Republican circles these days. So I do think there are going to be consequences. I think there will be consequences at the ballot box. Look at Governor Pence. Look at him. He's flopping in the wind, trying desperately to find some damage control here. He's scared. And he's scared because the constituents of that state will not stand for this kind of hateful discrimination in America today. And so I do think there will be political consequences. I think it'll be at the ballot box. I think it'll be when a lot of these people come up for re-election. And it's our job to ensure that the constituents in each of these districts know exactly what their elected officials are doing.
So, Chad, you grew up in a state where when you were born and when you were a young man and when you started working for Bill Clinton in the 90s, the views on gay and lesbian rights were a lot different than they are now in your state and nationally. But there's still a lot of people in Arkansas who disagree with you on religious grounds and personal grounds. What do you say to Arkansans who disagree with you on this issue?
You know what? Most Arkansans, they are fair-minded folks. What we're talking about is the most conservative American values. I grew up going to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, and if Mom got her way, Wednesday night too. And what I heard every single time I was in that church, it was not hate. It was love thy neighbor. It was we are all God's children. And those are the lessons that Arkansans learn, and those are the core values of Arkansans and most Americans. And so what's happening here is a misuse of religion to justify discrimination. But for those who aren't with us as it relates to the legal issues and marriage equality, there's one thing that changes folks' minds. As more and more Americans come out of the closet, as more and more folks, whether it's our own family, our neighbors, our fellow congregants, someone at work, a coworker, once they come out of the closet and we know who they truly are, folks stop wanting to discriminate against them. They don't want special rights for them, but they think they should have the exact same rights and opportunities as everyone else. That's an American value. It's an Arkansas value.
Chad, what happens next? You've had Indiana, you have Arkansas. I think there's been discussions about Louisiana, perhaps. From your guys' end, what happens next in this?
Yeah, well, look, what I think is we near the end of many of these state legislative sessions, and I'm optimistic that we'll be able to defeat a lot more of these bad bills. We might not be able to defeat them all, but we'll be able to defeat a lot of them.
Which one won't we defeat, do you think?
Well, I don't know. Texas, I have to say, is a state legislature that goes a lot longer than some of the ones we're facing now. There are nearly 20 anti-LGBT bills in the state legislature. What's happening in Indiana, what's happening in Arkansas, I think is going to be helpful in all those states. So I'm optimistic that we have a shot to, quite frankly, to defeat them all. States that, like Arkansas, where folks thought we had no chance. Most people said that this hateful piece of legislation was going to sail through and the governor was going to sign it. Well, guess what? That's not what happened. So I do think we can defeat most of these, if not all of these. Then we can turn the corner and do what we all should be doing. Pushing forward proactive legislation that provides non-discrimination protections to all the citizens of a state like Arkansas or a state like Indiana.